So right in front of us, this particular building here is the oldest Anglican church in the whole Southeast Asia. It was starting to build at the years of 1817 and it completed at the years of 1819. So this year, they're actually more than 201 years old now. These particular buildings are more than 201 years old. So this building of this Anglican church, it was completed with the same year of the British founding of the islands of Singapore, right? So sometimes I always joke with my Singaporean friend. I always told them that no, this particular church is more expensive than your islands of Singapore. Why? Because that time Sir Stamford Raffles, he used 40,000 Spanish dollars to bought over the islands of Singapore from the kings of Johor. But they spent 60,000 Spanish dollars to build up this Anglican church here in Penang. So I always joke with my Singaporean friend. I say that, hey, you know, this particular church, it was completed with the same year where the British founded the islands of Singapore, but they pay a higher price than your islands of Singapore, right? So this Anglican church here was very special because this church, this Anglican church, is not the first church that we have here in Penang Island, right? So this in Penang Island, as I mentioned, it was earlier founded by Captain Francis Light at the years of 1786. But after the arrival of Captain Francis Light here into Penang, they didn't really build up their own first Anglican church here. That is very, very strange. If let's say you look at most of the Western powers, when they go to conquer some of the country, example like the Spanish, when they go to Philippines, they conquer down the Philippines, they will bring along their religion, like Catholic religion, into the country. They build up a lot of church of them to spread missionary as well. But for British, they are very different. When they arrived here at Penang at the years of 1786, this Captain Francis Light, he didn't actually build an Anglican church here in Penang. Instead, they have built up a different church here, right? So what happened was, if let's say you still remember, earlier on when we were talking about the arrival of Captain Francis Light here, he didn't, although he got rejected by Charles Cornwallis, but he still insisted on to take down this island. So apart from the reason of it's a very strategic location, as I mentioned, it's a very nice island, a protected island, and also the defense systems is very good. Apart from these two main reasons, he also have a personal reason behind. Why? Because that time this Captain Francis Light, he had fell in love with a lady here. That lady, her name is known as Martina Rosell. So this lady, she's a Eurasian. It's a mixed blood between a Portuguese and also the local people here. Some of them, they even call this Martina Rosell as the Princess of Kedah, because she has some royalty mixed blood in between. So this Captain Francis Light, he saw this Martina Rosell. He fell in love with this Martina Rosell, right? So he would like to take down this island and bring along Martina Rosell to this island to stay forever and after here. What a lovely love story, right? Things is that this Martina Rosell herself, she is not an Anglican because she is descendants of Portuguese. She is actually a Roman Catholic. So when Captain Francis Light first arrived here, he had brought along Martina Rosell into this island, and Martina Rosell bring along the first group of bishops to arrive in this island, and they stay in this street here, right across. If let's say you can see there's a public bank in that areas, that street there is known as Bishop Streets, is where the first group of the bishops came and they stayed over that street. And this group of the bishops have built up the first church here in Penang at the street right next to it. You can't see it clearly here. Later we'll show it to you more clearly. That street there, known as Church Street, is where the first church was built. But this church that was built there, it was not an Anglican church. It was a Roman Catholic church. That is very strange. You must know a little bit basic about Christianity. So Christianity, they have two major groups back then. We have the Protestants and we also have the Roman Catholic. And these Protestants and Roman Catholic, they don't really get well with each other. And Anglicans, the British Christians, or called it Anglican, they are actually part of Protestants. They are part of Protestants. So for many years, they've been fighting with each other. They don't get along well with each other. But very strange thing here in Penang is that when the first church to be built here in this British territory is not an Anglican church by itself. It's a Roman Catholic. That makes things very strange. It's all because of this Martina Rosell. Because this Martina Rosell, she's a very strong Roman Catholic by herself. So when she came over here, she has influenced Captain Francis Light to build up the first church here to be a Roman Catholic church. So this church, the first church here, it was there on that church street areas all the way until the years of 1850. When the space of that church is no longer sufficient anymore, they have moved towards another site beside this Anglican church. Right beside there just now, we also have a different church, another Roman Catholic church. That church is known as Church of Assumption, and that is the origin of the first church we have here in Penang, right? So all because of this Martina Rosell. So this Martina Rosell as well, she has a very sad, full life as well. So after he married to Captain Francis Light, Captain Francis Light died 8 years after he arrived here in Penang. So at the years of 1794, he died. So after he died, this Martina Rosell, supposedly that time, she's supposed to inherit all the wealth from Captain Francis Light, right? All the land, all the properties, and etc. But she wouldn't able to do so because the time this Martina Rosell, her marriage to Captain Francis Light was not really recognized by the British. Right? As I mentioned, the British, they were Anglican. They don't really like the Roman Catholic. So when this Martina Rosell married to Captain Francis Light felt that this British felt that this is not recognizable. So they don't recognize the Martina Rosell as the first lady here of Penang at that time. So that came with one problem. So after Captain Francis Light died, who going to inherit this wealth? So that time, this Captain Francis Light, he have a very close business partner. So this business partner of him is a guy named as James Scott. And this James Scott at the time, he have challenged Martina Rosell to the court over these rights of this property. And without doubts at the time, because of the Martina Rosell background, the courts have awarded all the wealth of this Captain Francis Light to his business partner, which is this James Scott. So in the end, this Martina Rosell left with nothing. And later on, according to some news, he remarried again to another guy, but basically she left with nothing in the early years after the death of the Captain Francis Light. So back into this Anglican church, if let's say look at this Anglican church, when it was built, the pillar, if let's say look at the pillar here, this pillar here, it was built using mahogany tree. So what are the mahogany tree? If let's say look the tree right in front of us, this is a mahogany tree here. So this pillar, in between the pillars here, the pillars, right inside the pillars is actually the mahogany tree trunk. So they use this mahogany tree trunk and then they cement it outside to build up as a pillars here. So this mahogany tree is a very strong tree. We call it as the ironwoods tree. Ironwoods. So this ironwoods is very strong, and these termites, the white ant, the termites, they were not able to bite into these ironwoods. So because of that, you can see these pillars here, it remains for more than 200 years, still remains in a good shape. And during the Second World War, the Japanese have air raided Penang. They dropped a lot of bombs. So some of the bombs have actually dropped into this Anglican church at the time, and it was exploded. But the pillar, although the roof and the side wall was destroyed, but the pillars still remain intact until today. So you can see how strong is the mahogany woods. So when we talk about some of the woods that we have here in the world, ironwoods category, they are one of the strongest woods that we have. But mahogany tree, this tree, they are not the strongest wood in the world. Although they are under the woods, the category of ironwoods, but they are not the strongest. The strongest wood in the world is actually found in Southeast Asia, in our neighboring country of Indonesia, a wood known as kayu jati, or in English we call that a thick wood. Thick wood, that is the strongest. And in Malaysia, we have the second strongest wood in the world. We call that as cengau wood. So this cengau, jati, or even mahogany, they are all a very strong wood. But this wood, they have a very special characteristics, very special characteristics. When you use this kind of wood for construction basis, after you build it, you must make sure you use that building. Example, you build up this building, you must make sure that there is a frequent people who go into the building and come out with the building, and the church is in usage all the time. So this wood is very special. If let's say you're going to leave it there after you build it, using this wood and build a structures or a building or a bridge, and you leave it there without using it, 10 years, 15 years later, it will just decay and destroy by itself, right? You won't be able to use it anymore. But if let's say you're going to use this wood and build up the building and you use it frequently, every day, every year, you keep on like people going into the building or walking on the bridges, these woods will last forever, right? It's very strange, huh? You use it, then it will last longer. You don't use it, it will just decay and gone, right? Why? Because when you use the building or you use the wood, that create vibrations. And this vibration will help to prevent the wood from decaying. So this particular building here, it can last more than 200 years. One of the most important thing is that because the pillar was built using this mahogany tree. Okay, right.